Welcome back to Buy or Sell, the series where you pitch me your predictions, and I either buy or sell them and explain why. If you want to submit your own idea, leave a comment below starting with buy or sell, and I'll consider it for a future video. So let's do this. This is Buy or Sell, Episode 5. Before we get started, I just have to say, if this audio sounds weird, it's because I'm really sick. I'll try to make this sound as good as possible. We'll start with Janitor. Iron Gwazi will be the best RMC, better than Steel Vengeance. I'm doing this video before I've ridden Iron Gwazi, so I can take a truly wild guess at this, but I do know my coaster preferences, and I have to sell this. I don't think I'm gonna like Iron Gwazi more than Steel Vengeance. Iron Gwazi is not a short ride by any means, but this has 30 fewer seconds of ride time than Steel Vengeance. I think Iron Gwazi can be a top 5 coaster, but no matter how great those 47 seconds are, when it ends, Steel Vengeance still has a whole other RMC Raptor for you, or one-sided Twisted Colossus. Those are 30-second rides, and Steel Vengeance is great from the drop to the final breaks. Walker Films. Valleyfair gets a B&M invert as our long-awaited coaster. A B&M invert would be a perfect addition for Valleyfair, but I do not see this happening. Valleyfair has gone 15 years without a new coaster with no end in sight. If I had to put money on it, I could absolutely see an S&S free spin going there. Cedar Fair doesn't like to flood their parks with clones like Six Flags, but now that they put Timbili in, I wonder if they'll get on a free spin kick. It's also possible that Timbili was a package deal with another S&S for King's Dominion, possibly an Axis, and we'll never see another free spin ever again in the Cedar Fair chain. I just don't think they'll get a B&M after waiting so long for a new ride. It'll have to be something smaller. It could even be some kind of S&S launch coaster. Hey, it's Vince. Disney will step out of their comfort zone and get a B&M hypercoaster, probably a small one. This may not be as crazy as it sounds. We've seen Disney go with a true thrill coaster before, like Incredicoaster and Expedition Everest, or even Indiana Jones in Paris. Of course, these are very well themed, but that doesn't mean a small B&M hyper can't be. I'm buying this. I think somewhere at some point, they may see the opportunity for something from B&M. I know Vekoma is their go-to manufacturer, but they aren't exclusive. They work with Intamin and Mock Rides. B&Ms are reliable people eaters. If they wanted to make a thrill ride that isn't entirely indoors, they should give B&M a look. Talk Orpy. In the next 20 years, Codaland will be owned or operated by Cedar Fair. I'll be checking this place out for the first time this year, and I'll get a good idea of what it looks like. I like the way you think, but I have to sell. Even if Codaland builds their theme park to the level of a small Cedar Fair park, I'm not sure if they want to deal with a racetrack. If anything, the Circuit of the Americas may bring Cedar Fair in to manage the park, like they do for Gilroy Gardens, and the racetrack would be separate. Michael 52. California's Great America will get rid of Grizzly for a B&M Hyper. Ah, the much discussed CGA Hyper. It's such a shame this never came to be. Not that it'll never happen, just that it didn't happen when it was supposed to a couple years ago. It seems to have been shelved, and I don't think they're going to go in that direction. If they don't RMC Grizzly, I think that'd be an awesome spot for a mock multi-launch. There's also the possibility they don't take it out at all. This has always had a line when I'm at the park, and I don't think it's just because they have one train and have 9-minute dispatches. The GP see this as a big wooden coaster that's relatively smooth, even if we enthusiasts see this as a snooze fest. Sean Gilbride. Adventureland will either RMC Tornado or remove it by 2030. I'm selling this. This seems like a coaster that will be around forever. It shouldn't be, but it looks pretty, and they'll probably just keep it maintained enough to be rideable. I think Outlaw has a way better layout for RMC, compared to the out and back layout for Tornado. I don't think it'll happen for Outlaw either, so when it comes to RMC and Adventureland, I think you're gonna have to rely on a ground-up coaster. Maybe its old ownership would have done it. I think it's less likely as a Palace Park. Matthew Farrell. El Toro will never get the RMC treatment. I'm buying this. Six Flags paid way too much for that prefabricated track, and they're gonna keep it. They just did a lot of retracking after his accident last year, so that should be fresh for a long time. It's weird to say, but the RMC conversion could make this less extreme. It's probably the only wooden coaster in America to say that, except maybe Haiti 360. RMC would have a lot of fun with this, but I don't think they will ever get their chance. Brady Kish. Carowinds will remove Nighthawk for a major coaster, such as a dive coaster. I'm buying this, but I don't know how I feel about a dive coaster. Either way, there's no way Nighthawk is around much longer. If this was a low-level Cedar Fair park, like Six Flags America is in the Six Flags chain, then I bet they'd hang on to it for as long as they can. I think Batwing will stay around because they don't want to replace it. Cedar Fair keeps improving Carowinds, and that's a really nice plot of land for something with better capacity, and something that gives a better ride experience. Maybe an RMC single rail. It could be a dive coaster. Maybe a Gerstlauer Infinity. I know when Kings Island closed Firehawk, it became a parts owner for Nighthawk. That bought it some time, but I still think it's gone within 10 years. Alexander. Six Flags New England removes either Batman or Gotham City Gauntlet within 5 to 10 years. I am absolutely selling this on Batman. That's a popular ride and one of their better coasters. Gotham City Gauntlet is possible, but I would still have to say no. There's not much they can do with the land. Maybe put a new flat ride. Would they remove a coaster for a flat ride? I would say only if they really needed to. I don't think these Wild Mouse coasters are hard to maintain, and they give a really good family coaster option. It fits in well with the DC area it's in. I don't think either of these coasters are going anywhere. Quentin Kelly. Carowinds will replace Vortex by 2025. I'm selling this just because it's too soon. I think Vortex has 3 more years at least, but maybe I'd draw the line at 10 years. Not only do these B&Ms seem to have a limit to their service life, I just don't think Vortex is that good or that popular. It's not a big plot of land for a new coaster, but I'm sure Carowinds can do something here to make the park better. Michael Bumbelow. 2025. Six Flags Over Georgia premieres the chain's first B&M Giga. It's not a terrible option, but I'm selling. I think Magic Mountain or Over Texas is more likely to get one. Great America and Great Adventure are big park options, but they already have B&M hypers. The others have Giovanola hypers. I think they're way different, but from the naked eye, they look the same. Over Georgia also has a B&M hyper, and even though this park does get some decent investments, I don't think it's Giga level. Over Georgia keeps getting rumored for an SNS free spin that never seems to happen. I would bet on that, or some kind of SNS launch coaster like Max Force. I still think at some point, they may end up with Fiesta Texas's Pandemonium, but that may take longer than I thought. With all this in mind, here's the next question. The Young Chef. Six Flags Over Georgia will get the first SNS access in response to Air Force One. I really thought Fiesta was going to end up with the first access, but they got the dive instead. That opens up the possibility of an access for Over Georgia, and the sudden draw of Funspot Atlanta makes this really interesting. Funspot isn't threatening them at all, but they may use Air Force One's popularity to their advantage. They may want to be able to point to something new and awesome, and get people to spend a second day in Atlanta. An access would make that splash a lot more than a free spin, but so would an SNS launch coaster. I like the idea so much that I'm going to buy it, although it could be a lot of different things, even a small B&M dive. Big Blue Amusement Productions. Cedar Point will only get one new coaster this decade. Cedar Point's been kind of sporadic with their coasters, going 6 years between Maverick and Gatekeeper, but then adding 2 more in the next 5 years. If they add something in 2023, which seems possible if not probable, that's 5 years from Steel Vengeance. Will they go all the way to 2030 without adding another one? I'm selling that. I think there will be 2 at least, possibly 3 depending on how big those 2 are. Cedar Point is at the point where they have to take out rides to add new ones, so that's something else to keep in mind. What would they be willing to retire to add the next big thrill ride? Gemini? Top Thrill Dragster? Magnum? Please don't. I still think we'll see something in the near future near the Wicked Twister site, and then one more by 2027 or 2028. Cavici Coasters. A major park in America will either close or switch owners by 2028. This depends on what you mean by a major park. We have seen at least 2 parks switch owners in the last 2 years, Kentucky Kingdom and Adventureland, so I'm buying that we'll see another one change hands over the next 6 years. These were independent parks that were picked up by Hershey and Palace, and I wouldn't be surprised to see either chain pick up another one. Now, will those be major parks with multiple major coasters? That's a coin toss. On the last buy or sell, there was a question about Hershey buying a park in the western US, and I did not see that happening, unless Silverwood or Lagoon was interested in selling. I can see them making a play for a park like Indiana Beach. Gene Staples seems to want to build a chain of his own, but if the offer is right, he's a businessman. He may not be able to refuse. As for a major park closing, I don't see this happening. It's hard to predict sometimes, but it does happen. Look at Jaga Lake or Hard Rock Park. If there's any major park out there that seems to be in danger, I'm not aware of it. Smaller parks seem less stable, and we just saw the demise of Conneaut Lake Park. I guess maybe if a park like Mount Olympus was upside down in their finances, then it could happen. But it just seems like there would be enough interest in buying and saving a major park, and they aren't going to disappear unless there's a good reason. Lucky. Six Flags New England gets North America's first intimate hot racer. This is a great idea, but I'm selling it. We all know they need a launch coaster. We also know they may get a Raptor to replace Goliath. A launch single rail coaster makes a lot of sense, but this is intimate, and when it comes to Six Flags, I'll have to see it before I believe it. Six Flags has a strong relationship with RMC, Premier, and SNS. If you're putting money on something, put it on one of those. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea, just the opposite. I just think it's a long shot. Stunt Pilot 22. A New Jersey boardwalk park will get an intimate hot racer. Now this is one I'm gonna buy. We've seen the first hot racer go to a seaside park in Australia. This compact launch coaster seems ideal for a boardwalk park. Maurice Piers or Casino Pier. I urge you to take a look at this model. This could be good for either park. Nobody has anything like this. It would fit in anywhere. Pat Mahunik. Six Flags Darien Lake will get a major new attraction by 2025. As much as I love to see an RMC Predator, and as much as I think is possible now after canceling the GCI Titan track, I don't trust Six Flags in Darien Lake. It's just like Six Flags America. There's just something about this park. They may get something small, but in terms of a new thrill coaster, don't bet on it. Explodin' Productions. Kings Island gets a near clone of Zadra in 2024 or 2027 themed to Son of Beast. I'm glad this says 2024 or 2027. I don't think something like this will be coming next, but I think something like this could be in the cards for their next big coaster. It's too perfect not to happen. There's so much land that Son of Beast used that's still wide open. I would guess it would be a custom model and not a Zadra clone, but I agree with this sentiment. After their mock multi-launch in 2024, they can get this in 2027 or 2028. That would really cement their status against Cedar Point. Then again, who knows what Cedar Point's gonna look like in 6 years? Extreme Fire 8268. Intamin will make a new type of launch coaster other than LIMs, LSMs, or hydraulic launches. I'm buying this, and this draws me back to my video about the record holders. I said that Formula Rosa's speed records seem pretty safe, and that was because the hydraulic launch isn't in production anymore. At some point, somebody is gonna break the speed record, and I said it'd probably be with a model we can't even imagine today. Someone will invent a new way to launch a coaster that's powerful and hopefully reliable, and that'll be capable of exceeding 150 miles per hour. I don't think Intamin will go with an air launch, and I'm not smart enough to even guess what tech they'd use to do that. I'll leave that to the engineers. The only way I would sell this is if magnetic launches become more efficient, and they could achieve the higher speeds at a faster rate. Alusherman. Cedar Fair CEO Richard Zimmerman is removed or forced into early retirement within the next 3 years. Cedar Fair always seems so stable, so I don't imagine a scenario where this happens. They took a hit with the COVID year like everyone else, losing ticket sales and extending passes a full year, but as far as I can tell, they came out of that as good as possible. They are facing a lawsuit over refunding the cost of the 2020 passes, and that could hurt their bottom line, but will that be pinned on the CEO? I don't think so. Unless he makes some radical decision that turns out to be a failure, which is very un-Cedar Fair-like, I think he's fine. J-Space. Kings Island will be getting a replacement for Vortex in 2023. I'm buying this, but I don't know about 2023. I would bet on 2024. I think whatever new coaster they get, it'll go in the Vortex plot. There's only one exception, and that would be the aforementioned Son of Beast RMC iBox coaster. That would make more sense to use the land behind Banshee where Son of Beast used to sit. Banshee was considered to be a replacement for Son of Beast, but it barely uses any of its land. If they were to get a mock multi-launch, or a mock extreme spinner, or a B&M dive, or a Gerstlauer Infinity, I think anything like that goes in the Vortex plot of land, but I think 2023 is too soon. We'll end episode 5 with Louis Charette. Six Flags will never RMC Le Monster at La Ronde. I'm selling this. Of all the coasters in the Six Flags chain that could and should be RMC'd, this is a really good candidate. RMC has never worked in Canada, but I'm sure they can find a way to make it work. And it may not even be in the near future, but Six Flags can't ignore this park forever, and converting an old, out-of-date wooden coaster into an elite hybrid for a reasonable price seems too good to pass up. Either they RMC it or scrap it. RMC is still working with Six Flags, even though the last hybrid was 4 years ago. I could be wrong, but I like the chances of this happening. That's a wrap on Buy or Sell episode 5. Thanks to everyone who sent in your questions. If you want yours to be considered for a future video, leave it in the comments below, starting with the words buy or sell. Let me know what you think about my picks, if you agree or disagree with anything here, and why. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new here, please consider giving me a sub, and check out my playlist for other episodes in this series. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also happen to love baseball. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.